Hello and welcome to Lost in Chronologically Lost, where, it's been a while since we said it. I'm Matthew,
I'm David.
and in this final episode, we finally find out that all along, everyone on the island was all dead. Even though they're not dead on the island, just dead.
Yeah, so this is really where the whole "they were dead all along" came from because they did a show, and with the last 5% of it, they were dead, and people took that to mean, oh, they were dead 100% of the time. Like,
No. They just literally died in, like, the main plot. Like, like, they made that very clear. Everyone died. Like, they're very clear that, like, Jack's death is the one you see in the final shot of the show, and everyone else, Hurley will die someday. Like,
yeah, they even
it's not even worth,
there's a
like,
funny
the interpretation here is, I think, very clear.
there's a very funny interview with one of the writers that was that was done like the morning after the finale aired, and the interviewer clearly didn't understand, and he was like, "Well, why would you choose to end it revealing that all the characters were dead all along? Doesn't that feel kind of cheap?" And the writer's like, "What? What are you talking about? That's not how we ended it. That's not what happened." And he had to like explain step by
And
step
I
to
feel
the
like it's
interviewer
not
what happened.
complicated. I mean, maybe I was affected by X. You know what? Let's just
Yeah,
I just want to move on from that because that's like it's not even worth, the time of day.
yeah, no, it's such a meme because it's like if people are in on the joke, then it's like, oh, funny to say, oh, they were dead all along when you know they weren't. But then there are some people on the internet who still to this day truly believe that that's how it actually ended, that they were dead all along, which is
No, it just showed some afterlife. It was basically purgatory, I think.
yeah,
Like it's
it's just
very
purgatory.
very Christian. In the end, the show was so Christian.
What do you mean? But the church had the window with the different faith symbols
Oh, I
on it, so
noticed.
clearly it wasn't
I actually
Christian.
have a note on that. The church. I was like, huh. Why is there a menorah and a Star of David on the wall? Is that a Buddha statue in the corner?
Yeah, they had that. They had the crescent moon. They had the mandala wheel.
Yeah. But in the end, it's just a very Christian conceptualization of things.
It could be. I mean, you could also see it as a Buddhist conceptualization with like sort of reincarnation until you achieve enlightenment. Like,
Yeah, but I think it's definitely closer to purgatory.
yeah.
Anyway, so let's
So
begin at the beginning then.
with Jack's eye opening.
Yeah, so he has that wound, and
Yeah, in case you didn't realize yet, that he keeps bleeding from there because that's where he was stabbed by the Man in Black in the final
yeah,
episode.
yeah. So then, his son made breakfast for him, and Claire's there, and they just talk about like, oh, is David's mom coming to the concert?
Yeah, did you expect it to be Juliet?
No, I didn't. But I'll
Some
talk.
people did. Actually, I've seen some people who they have actually successfully guessed that it would
Yeah,
be
I mean,
Juliet.
I think it's very reasonable to guess because you notice the show is really not bringing back the actress who played Jack's ex. So, like, why are they hiding that? But I'll talk about my thoughts on it being Juliet later. So,
Yeah, so then Desmond calls Jack about the coffin pretending to be Oceanic, which is really weird because Oceanic actually did
yeah,
get the coffin back, so I don't know why Desmond had to pretend to be them.
I don't get what they were, like, leading to there.
I guess it's just that Desmond is setting everything up, but also it's like, okay, sure.
Yeah. Anyway, so, we see Locke at work, and then it's Desmond watching him, and Ben is like, "Hey, it's you. I'm making a citizen's arrest." Because in this timeline, Ben is the kind of guy who makes a citizen's arrest.
Well, I mean, I also like this, like, you're not going to hurt Mr. Locke again. It's so nice to see just such a role reversal from how he was
Yeah.
in
Oh yeah.
the
There's
real
tons
timeline.
of Ben is like, out of all this afterlife stuff, I think Ben got like the best material.
Yeah, but I think that's because he also had the most room to grow.
Yeah. Anyway, Desmond just beats the hell out of him, and he says he's here to help Locke let go.
And that starts giving Ben like slight memories from when he got beat up, which I just love.
Yeah.
That getting beat up is what makes him remember a little bit.
And then we see a Locke going to Ben in the nurse's office, and Ben like says he's trying to help you let go, and like this means something.
Yeah. So then we found out that pretty much everyone is going to this concert for some reason or another because of just whatever. And then Desmond shows up at the police station and turns himself in.
Yep. And I was really wondering what his plan was here, and it turns out it's just to get close to the ones who are in jail, which, you know...
Yeah, I remember, last time you were like, how are they going to get out of the situation? And the answer is just...
Okay, well, my question...
It was very simple.
My question was less about how does Kate get out of jail, and more like, how do we give a satisfying fate to Kate, you know?
Well, I think they did. Would you agree?
They did what they did for all the characters.
Yeah, which is...
Anyway, so... Alex helps Ben, you know, because he's injured. They give him a ride home, and we're gonna see Danielle.
Well, she also says, why would anyone want to hurt you? You're like the nicest guy ever.
And we get this... So are they, like, hinting that there could, like... Are they hinting that, like, there could be a future romance between Ben and Danielle, and, like, he could be...
I didn't take it as that at all. I just took it as... He could still continue to be there in Alex's life.
I was just thinking, like, oh, are they implying that...
No, I would not.
But, yeah, it is just, like...
To be fair, I can understand that. Actually, that scene where they, like, kind of look at each other, what was supposed to happen there was Ben would fully get his memories back there, but they decided not to show that just because they thought it would be tipping their hand just a little too soon.
Yeah.
I believe this was still the penultimate episode, not the finale, so they didn't want to show it right away.
Yeah, and I think either way, it's less like he will have a romance with her, and more like just showing, like, he can fit into the father figure role. They can both, like... You know, him and Danielle both being parents to Alex doesn't have to conflict anymore.
Yeah. So then we have Locke going to go see Jack, and he points out all the coincidences that really does make it seem like he's accusing Jack of hiring a guy to run him over.
Yeah. And, I do like that Locke says, like, maybe it's happening for a reason. Maybe there's some destiny, because that is the Locke we know and like.
Yeah, and then, of course, Jack has to go, I think you're mistaking coincidence for fate.
So then
back at the police station, Kate just, like, asks Sawyer to let her go.
And he's just like, no, I can't do that. And then Desmond, in the car that they're being taken, he's just like, yeah, so we're going to leave, and... So, you know, they have to
it's so funny. It's like, oh, hey, yeah, so if I can, like, get you guys out of this, will you guys do one thing for me? And it's like, the most sarcastic, like, oh, yeah, of course I will. Yeah, for sure. Yeah. Like...
I mean, in that situation, I would. Clearly this...
Yeah, you might as well just say yes. Like, what's the worst that could happen?
Something's going on. Anyway, so then Ana Lucia is, in fact, just being a corrupt cop.
Yeah.
And... I guess
she's still got some things to work through.
Yep. So, yeah, it's kind of weird that, like, that's her. That's, like, the final note we see her on.
Well, like, I mean, to be fair, by this point, Michelle Rodriguez was even more famous.
Yeah.
They could probably only get, okay, we got you for an hour in Hawaii. Okay, good. Yep. Like.
Anyway, so Hurley is also here. He's the one bribing her, and it's nice to see, like, Hurley fully knows now too, and is just, like, you know, using his resources to help Desmond.
Yeah, so Hurley's going to go drive Saeed, and Desmond's going to drive Kate, since they're going to go to a concert.
Yep.
Then we get a montage of the coffin arriving and Jack prepping for surgery.
Yeah, well, you know how I feel about montages.
Yeah, so then Desmond, you know, he goes to receive Christian's body, and Kate, in the final episode, makes fun of the whole, really? His name is Christian Shepherd?
Yeah. And we get this scene, it's like, I can't tell you why you're here, no one can, but, like, you're going to realize and we're going to leave. And, yeah, I mean, now I know what they're alluding to.
Yeah, so then, you know, back with Hurley, he's like, doesn't this, you know, remind you of anything, you and me? But tranquilizer gun?
It does not.
No.
Anyway, Hurley
so he goes and shoots, Charlie to get him.
We're not messing around here, we need you. And then, so we also get, Miles seeing Saeed in the car, and I don't think this doesn't go anywhere in, like, catching Saeed. It only goes somewhere in, like, oh, Sawyer needs to check on...
Yeah, this was just to get Sawyer to go to the hospital.
You know, at this point, we're wrapping up the show, but I think it would have been, like, if this was a much different plot line, it would have been cool to see, like, oh, it's a cool moment. Oh, shit, the guy I just sent to the county jail is there? What's going on?
Yeah. So it's like, well, there was only one witness, so maybe he's going after her. Yeah. Gotta go check on her. And then we get probably my favorite memory scene, of course, which
yeah,
is
it's great.
Sun and Jin in the hospital,
Yep,
and Juliet is their doctor.
Yep. And they just start to remember as they see the baby, and they're just like, they're so happy, and they both saw, and then they just speak in perfect English, like it's a girl, Ji-yeon, and Juliet's like, your English is fine.
Yeah. Yeah, they just learned it 10 seconds ago, but they got it.
I was actually thinking, like, before they said it, I was like, are they going to know English again, or do they just remember what happened? I was like, yeah, no, they fully know now.
Yeah. And then, Jack and Locke, they talked before his surgery.
Yeah, they're just friendly. It's, so much of the time they were in conflict, but here they're just friendly.
Yeah, and they're talking about the missing coffin and about how it's arrived. And he goes, I hope that brings you some peace. And he says, if I can fix you, Mr. Locke, that'll be all the peace I need. Which is, and also what he says here is, if you're gonna be like cutting open my spine, he's like, you can start calling me John.
Yep.
Which is so funny because on the island he would always call him John as like a sign of like disrespect, but here it's like a sign of friendship.
Yeah, they are really tying it together. Anyway, Juliet says hi to Jack, and yeah, they're divorced. The thing about this is that knowing this is all afterlife stuff, I think that this is just afterlife, like purgatory, just kind of ties their lives together vaguely.
Yeah, but it's funny to see. It's like, well, we're both doctors and everything. Is,
I think Jack and Juliet have enough chemistry that I actually don't like them seeing broken up. Like, I'm fine with them never ending up together, and I'm fine with Jack ending up with Kate instead, but I feel like they have enough chemistry that if they were once together and broken up, then that just seems like a really big shame to me, because I do think they can be good together, Like, it's like Jack breaking up with his original ex, I'm like, yeah, sure, like, that's how it goes. But, like, Jack and Juliet, like, they're cute together on some level. It's a little sad that, like, it didn't work with them.
Well, yeah, but you can also see here, in their original timelines, both Jack and Juliet went through like a horrible divorce. But here it's like the divorce, but it's like at least it's an amicable one.
Yeah,
where they still
I'm
work together
sure
and talk to each other.
Sure it happened for similar reasons of where Jack, like, it wasn't even like a problem of chemistry, but it was just where Jack was in his life. But I don't know, it's like again, I also like Jack and Kate. And I think that in the main plot of the show, they hinted at Jack and Juliet a bit, but it's how much they went for it is fine. They didn't need to, like, do it. But when you tease it with me, like, I like Juliet a lot, Of course, we do get other good Juliet romance plot here later.
Right. And they also just have a quick scene of Sawyer being like, oh, his son here? Yeah.
Yep.
Then Hurley, we have Hurley saying that he trusts Saeed because, he knows that deep down Saeed's a good guy.
And that is just great. Because I feel like season 6 of the main plot did so much stuff with, Saeed is like it feels like they just decided to roll with Saeed being a bad man. Season 5 did that stuff too. It's like, yeah, he feels nothing. It's so edgy, and like we needed this to balance it out. The affirmation that, like, no, Saeed is a good person deep down, because I understand that even though he's made bad decisions, each one of them was out of caring and wanting to protect people he cared about.
Yeah, and then cut to Boone being beaten up, and then the dude eventually actually hits Shannon too.
Yeah.
So Saeed goes to the rescue.
Because he is a good person and he will help people, and then, he picks Shannon up, and this is where they both remember, and I'm so happy that Shannon actually is here. I think I talked to you while watching, I said, yeah, I'm okay with you trolling me about Shannon, because, like, we got this.
Well, all I said was, hey, they couldn't get her for the premiere, but they got her for the finale.
Yeah,
so...
and she... Saeed, Nadia's great, but Saeed and Shannon is, like, the pairing I believe in. I think that they were so different, and yet they were able to be together, and they helped each other be better, and that is kind of beautiful.
That's, I've seen a lot of discourse about this, about why didn't he end up with Nadia, and I think it's that Nadia is who he gets after he becomes a good person, but Shannon is the person who he works with to become a better person.
And, like, Nadia... And I feel like there's the guilt, like, the reason he didn't, like, he pushed Nadia towards his brother is because of his guilt. It's because, like, he thought he didn't deserve her, and I feel like that's not that's not because, like, Shannon is worse, so he deserves her instead. Shannon is great.
But it's that Shannon also has issues that she is using Saeed to work through.
Saeed, I think to Saeed, Nadia is, like, the part of his... It's part of his past that he feels like he didn't deserve, while Shannon is something new. Like, Shannon Shannon is moving forward for him.
Yes. Then we see, it turns out Boone was just working with Hurley because I guess he got his memories back at some point.
Plot line, but it's like, he was.
Yeah, he has his own show to do still.
But it was kind of just funny for him to say, like, that was a pain in the ass. Yeah, I mean, it's fun, not just, like, getting beat up, but, like, he did end up having to go and bring Shannon to America. Like, that can't have been easy.
Yeah, so then we have Charlotte waking up Charlie for the show and bumping into Daniel. So, they don't get a resolution here, but it's kind of in the sense of, like, they will get a resolution at some point.
When I, like, finished the episode, I kind of thought, I was like, wait, we didn't see that. And I feel like they were major enough.
Yeah, the freighter people didn't get a resolution, and I'm okay with that. It's like, you know what, I
guess.
Because they said, like, the most important time you spent on the island was there, but, like, Charlotte spent, a few days. I mean, Daniel, he spent only a couple days because he spent most of the 70s back in America.
Yeah.
I guess Miles spent quite a bit of time there.
I don't know, I did. I feel like I saw the characters. I saw those characters enough that I wanted it to happen, especially as, like, we set up, like, Charlotte and Sawyer didn't work out, so I want to see what does work out, but I guess I can see it.
Well, it's going to be Daniel, yeah, obviously.
Yeah.
Like,
I want to get to see it happen. But then we get to the concert. Why actually do Jack and his family go to the concert?
Because his son won the thing.
Oh, that's the reward. Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Anyway, so Desmond is there, Claire is there, Kate is there, and they're just like...
Yeah, they're all at the same table.
I love that kind of a reaction the characters have. And Desmond, like, pretends...
Yeah, and then, Charlie gets on stage, and he sees Claire. And, of course, that's right when she starts to go into labor.
Right. And it's like, I love that he was like, why am I even doing this? And then he sees her, and it's like, okay, shit's happening here. And then they need a doctor, and we don't, even though there are great doctors nearby, instead we once again get Kate delivering the baby. And I kind of like that this is the moment that makes Kate remember. Because...
Yeah, it's sweet.
Like... It's just like, you know what? It's like Kate raised Aaron, and Kate, like, it meant a lot to her to help Claire give birth. That was a really significant moment to her. I feel like, in part because she was like she was a criminal, and this is her getting to, like, do something good. And I just feel like it's nice that they showed that matters to her, and it's not just about romance to make people remember. But even before that happens, we get Eloise sitting with Desmond. She's just like, don't do this. And Desmond is just like, shut up.
Yeah. Well, I kind of get it, because to me it appears that Eloise, like Libby, had some sort of just independent thing where she got her memories.
Yeah.
And she decided that she doesn't want to move on. She wants to at least spend the time with her son, especially considering we see this life that that Daniel has now of he actually got to follow his dreams and do what he wants.
I didn't really think of it that way, like getting to give her son the life he wanted and getting to, like... And just, like, he died prematurely, and it was her fault, I think.
Well, it was, she shot him, so, her fault.
Yeah, I get that now. I think when Eloise first told Desmond not to do things, I expected it to have to do with, like, she is the one who gives people Magic Island advice of what you have to do for fate. But if it's really just about her son... I didn't
this is clearly just about her son, because she said, are you going to take my son away? And he says no.
I got that, but I didn't connect it. I didn't connect it because, like...
Yeah, no, this isn't Island Magic. This is just personal.
I didn't connect it because I just, like, I only realized it was the afterlife a little later. But yeah.
Right, you just assume she's always speaking something magical.
Yeah, she always talks about that. But yeah, that is actually really good then.
So then Charlie also shows up to the birth, and that causes him to remember.
Really fast birth. Like, real talk.
It's the finale. We gotta keep it going. Like...
Anyway, so Charlie brought a blanket, which is the kind of way he would help Claire on the island. And Kate knows it's him, and Kate's just like, yep, give it to her. And they remember things. They remember the fucking peanut butter.
I still don't see why you hate that. That's such a cute scene.
Anyway, Desmond shows up, and he's like, yep, we got this now. We got this. And, I feel like Kate understanding that they have to leave now makes more sense to me when I realize... They remember dying. Like, I thought they were just remembering things from another universe. No, they remember dying.
They're remembering their entire life, including their death.
Yeah, if that's what they know, then it makes more sense that they know they have to leave. Anyway, Jack and Locke get out of the surgery. Jack has another neck injury, and Locke wakes up and he says it works because he can feel his legs.
Yeah, and he
we
wiggles his
basically
toe, and that's what causes him to remember.
Yeah, we get the Tarantino scene, and then he remembers what he gained feeling on the island.
Yeah, and then Jack, he gets like a tiny little flash, but then he's too stubborn, he blocks it out.
And Locke says that Jack doesn't have a son. Look, now might be a good time to bring up, I'm actually not in love with this afterlife and moving on stuff for the ending.
Oh.
I don't
think
it's
sucks.
Bad, but it's like this isn't what I'd prefer. I actually just got kind of accustomed to the idea that they did manage to create another timeline, and they kind of get to be happy in that timeline, even if they aren't happy in the main timeline. I just liked the idea of that. And
I guess, I don't know. See, I'm the complete opposite, where I'm like, I wish like every show I loved just gave me some alternate timeline nonsense like this where I can just watch.
And
like,
see, there's also the fact that like, I think the moment the show ends on originally is better, because I think when you die, if we're gonna end on the characters dying, I do want that sense of finality. And I think as a person,
well, to be fair, the original ending has them moving on and Jack dying at the same time.
Well, exactly. Like, I think that I prefer like the final shot of the show being Jack dying on the island. I think that kind of makes it feel better, like more like a closing to me. But I think also just as a pure matter of preference, the whole thing about dying and then moving on to the next thing isn't actually... It's not really a thing I love. And you know what that makes me think of? That makes me think about The Good Place. And I don't want to have that conversation with you because I don't want to spoil to anyone who might be listening who hasn't seen The Good Place, because that's a great show. But you get what I mean about there's some similar ideas to think about there.
I'd say there's... The Good Place took a lot from Lost.
Yeah, oh yeah.
But, again, I'm not going to spoil, but I thought it also did work really well in The Good Place too.
I think it worked better, but like, I'm not saying one good, one bad, but I think this is just an interesting conversation to be had. But anyway, I think that for me, I don't know, if I see characters in Afterlife, I just want it to be the afterlife. I don't want to get an afterlife, but then have another vague, like, oh, the real afterlife is still a mystery we don't get to see. Like, if you're going to show the afterlife, just show me the afterlife.
I don't know. I'm kind of fine with that.
It's preference. Yep. It's just I have my own personal thoughts about death and existence that I think are not necessarily like the most common ones.
Right. Anyways, Sawyer shows up to Sun and Chin's hospital room. Sorry.
There was one other thing I had to bring up.
Oh, you're right. Yeah, I did miss something here.
Whatever you're thinking of, it's not that. It's okay. It's that if this is the afterlife, I'm sorry, I don't see the point in spending that much of a plot line on Jack's son then.
That was a major criticism.
Okay, thinking about it, what I can maybe give it is that Jack feels like he has failed as a father to Aaron when he was co-parenting Aaron with Kate. He failed there. And then, it kind of resolves him to learn how to be a good father. However, I feel like co-parenting Aaron was such a minor thing in the course of Jack's character arc that I don't think that really justifies it.
I think it more as just having a son was a way for him to work out his own father issues.
Okay, yeah. Sure, but I just think it's weird that we don't really conclude David so much as just like... It's just like, you don't have a son, and then from then on we don't even see him on screen.
Well, it's just like a construct.
It just feels like Jack just decided to completely forget about him, and I think that's a bit much, even if he does realize it's not real.
They had like 10 minutes left, dude.
That's what I'm saying. Like, this could have... I'm not saying that they needed to give the show another season, but I don't think that like this would have been hurt by it being longer as its own plot line.
Right. So anyways, then Locke says to Jack in their room, he says, I hope someone can do for you what you just did for me. Which I love. It's a double meaning. It's like not only of like you fixed me, but you gave me the memories of my previous life. Also, fun fact, I'll just throw this in here. They did try to
So,
get
yeah.
Mr. Echo
Then-
to show up in the finale, but his actor
And
disagreed
then
with the
Sawyer and-
payout. So,
Yeah.
but yeah, then Sawyer shows up to Sun and
Yep,
Jin's
and
room.
it's really another, like, I love seeing, like, Kate and Claire's reactions to meeting each other at the concert, and I love seeing Sun and Jin just smile at Sawyer, just like, they're just like, it's him, he doesn't know, but it's him.
Yeah, it's like, you've just been shot. It's like, no, I'm fine.
Yep.
We're leaving. And,
And-
then they go, we'll see you there. It's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yep. And at this point, I knew that they weren't just gonna, like, wake up in season 6 because, like, they remember things that happened on the island then.
Right.
Anyway, so Sawyer asks Jack where he can get food. We get this kind of odd moment between them, I think. And
I
Sawyer,
think it's just to have one last moment of him calling Jack Doc in the finale here.
I'm sorry, you completely cut out. I didn't hear what you said.
Oh, I'm just saying that was just one last moment for Sawyer to say, like, oh, thanks, Doc, to Jack here.
Yeah, so that was nice enough to see. I feel like that's kind of one of the things about this kind of ending to me, and one of the things about them ending on, like, a montage of everyone hugging as they do later, is that I want to see, like, the characters interact. Like, I feel like there are so many characters and so many relationships on this show that it's like I want to get, like, a final scene for each pairing, and it's obviously just not viable to do that.
Well, I guess it's like, yeah, the final scene is just them remembering.
Yeah, I mean, I want, like, bigger final season than that, you know, I'm being greedy here.
Yeah, so then he sees Juliet as he's trying to get the candy bar that gets stuck. And what she says here, this is kind of important, is she says, you know, if you unplug it and then plug it back in, the candy drops right down. And it's technically legal, which people have actually been using to explain how the real life island is, where it's like, if you just unplug it, do what you have to do, and then plug it back in, it works, and it's technically legal.
I literally made the joke about that. I literally
but like
the real solution was unplugging it and plugging it back in.
Yeah, and then of course the line "it worked," which is what she was saying to Sawyer at the beginning of the season.
Do you think that as she was dying, she was just seeing the afterlife a bit?
Yeah, that's what they've confirmed.
Yep. Anyway, she hands them the candy bar, and they start to remember, and they're like, "We should get coffee sometimes." Then they remember more, and they just hug and kiss, and that is just lovely.
Right, so then Jack shows up to the concert, which is already over.
Yeah, and Kate walks up to him. She knows he doesn't, but she's just like, "Oh, I stole your pen. We know each other." She holds him, and he starts to remember, and he has to come with her to fully remember.
Yeah. Kate like goes to kiss him, and he gets like small flashes, but then he still doesn't fully remember.
Yeah. And so Locke shows up at the church, and Ben is there, and we get a nice like that's, you know, of the pairings that really deeply matter. We do get scenes between them.
Yeah, I just love that, you know, he says he was sorry, you know, I was selfish and jealous, and I wanted everything that you had. And you know, in the finale we get saying that, you know, that Locke really was special. Like...
Yeah. No. Having like, there are things that having an afterlife, like, even though I don't love everything about it, there are things that it really allows the show to do, like having, you know, the resolution for Locke's life that we didn't get when Ben just fucking killed him like that, or, like, getting to see Sawyer and Juliet reunite. Those are absolutely good things.
Yeah, and then, you know, I think the best part here is that we actually get Locke being like, yeah, I forgive you. That's...
Yeah, I mean, it's a very Christian thing, forgiveness, but I mean, I am for this in this case.
Yeah, and it's like, are you going to come in? And he says, no, I have some things to work out still, which is like, it's good, you know, he has a lot to work through.
Yep. Yep.
And then, you know, but he says, you don't need the wheelchair anymore, and Locke's just able to walk.
And Hurley also comes out and invites him in, and, you know, Hurley tells him he was a great number 2, and I really like that, and I think that's what really, like, made me think, yeah, this is just complete, like, they all died eventually.
Yeah. Yeah, you're a really good number 2, and you were a great number 1.
Yeah, and that's also great for Ben's character arc, because Ben accepted not being the leader.
Mm-hmm.
And so, then Jack and Kate drive up, and Kate says, like, Jack has to go around back. And, you know, he goes through the church office that has a lot of religious symbols. And there is the coffin.
Yeah, and as he touches the coffin, he gets, like, most of his memories here. And then he opens it, and it's empty. And, of course, then Christian shows up to talk to him.
And Christian just explains, this is basically purgatory, but this is all real because everyone died. This is all, like, the real souls. And time is an illusion.
Yeah, and he has the thing is, like, how are you here? And it's like, well, how are you here? And it's like, oh, I died.
And so, at the core of the show is Jack, and at the core of Jack is his daddy issues, so this was what you had to end on.
Yeah, and, of course, the line of, the most important part of your life was the time you spent with these people, which is, it's just a message I love from TV shows that, like...
Yeah, that is really
Yeah, this was important to all the people in the show. Like, this was super important.
This is a total weird tangent, but I do like going on total weird tangents, but it just reminds me of this manga that I've read that is one of the worst manga I've ever read, because it is something that... It is such a premise that you would expect to go for the really obvious. It was about the people, not the place you were. And then at its end, it legitimately never does that, and it just actually really goes hard. And no, the place itself was just so special without, like, any good reason to care about it.
Oh my god.
It was so funny, like, that it didn't go for the most obvious theme in existence.
Right.
Anyway,
yes.
We get our last reunion montage. Everybody hugs and cries. And for some reason in my notes, I wrote hugging and then mugging. I have no idea why.
Yeah, I don't know what that's about. Yeah, and then everyone sits together, kind of vaguely like how they were seated on the plane.
That's the kind of thing Lost fans know.
Yeah, but it's kind of awkward because obviously all the couples have to sit together, so it's not perfect. And, like, Desmond and Penny are there. And then they all move on.
Yep. And that is it. And Lost is a pretty good show. I mean, I think I basically gave... The thing is, I gave a lot of my summed up thoughts on the overall plot already.
In, like, the real finale.
I gave, like, this is a good show. It did crazy things, but it was entertaining throughout for most of the time. It had great characters. And... I don't know, I mean, do you think there's more concluding thoughts I need to give on, like, what the overall experience was like?
I mean, out of 10, what is it?
I think it's a 7, but it's a strong 7.
Yeah, I think it's... A part of me wants to give it an 8, but then I have to remember, I'm like, you just watched, like, some of your favorite parts. You have to remember early Season 3, those boring scenes in Season 1, Yeah,
like the good stuff in the show. Like 8 or 9 stuff.
Well, there are some episodes of the show that I would give a 10, but there are some episodes of the show I would give, like, a 5.
Yeah. Yeah. But in the end, like, I think Lost is a very maligned show, and I think that there are a lot of shows that just, like, actually become shit or unwatchable, or just, like... And, like, Lost, at its worst, it either had slow pacing or... just, like, not weird decisions that still did lead to interesting plots. They were just, like, weird things to go for. But it was never, like... Lost, I think, deserves more credit than it gets now.
Yeah, I think one of the issues is that, to me, even when Lost was at its bad, or when Lost was doing time travel, or, seemingly doing split timelines, it never lost its core, which was, to me, the relationships between the characters and how that would play out. Yeah. But to a lot of people... the core was, well, I want answers.
Yeah.
And when the answers end up being magic, they thought, well, this is garbage.
But it was so obviously magic from the start.
Yeah, I'm like...
Look, there are some things, like, Locke gets healed at the start when he lands on the island.
Yeah, and people will say, oh, well, the creators...
You are either going to explain that with magic, or you're going to explain that by saying that a mad scientist built a healing beam that Locke went into the path of, and that was secretly on the island. And let me tell you, magic is a lot better for that.
Yeah, and another thing is, a lot of people will say that, like, what do they say? They'll say, well, the creators lied about stuff. And to be fair, the creators did lie, which is they said, we had the whole series planned out. They didn't. They wrote it up as they went along. But it's like, that's how every show is written. And they did a pretty good job of writing it up as they went along. Like, I'm fine with that, as long as it's a good product. And another issue is people will say, well, they kept saying, there'll be an answer for everything. There'll be an answer for everything. And then there wasn't. And I'm like, okay, I get that if you're reading all the interviews and you're listening to their podcast that they made 10 years ago, but I'm like, if someone just sits down and watches Lost now and they binge it and they're not, doing that live watchers do, they're not going to have those issues. Like, those issues are basically gone. Those issues are a temporary thing.
I do think it definitely helped my experience to just go in knowing that I shouldn't expect, like, those kinds of answers. But I was okay with that. And I don't think that, like, made me like the show more than I should have. I think that just helped me appreciate the show for what it is.
Right, yeah. It's... I don't know. I think Lost is special. And again, this may be just me being kind of ignorant because I don't really watch, dramas.
Yeah, neither of us are huge TV people.
Yeah, I just think it's so hard for there to be another show like Lost, because Lost came around at the perfect time where it had sort of the future ideas of shows, but it was still back in the day where you could get 24-episode seasons, and people would sit down and watch it every week.
Yeah,
and they would talk about it every week.
Netflix isn't going to cancel you after 3 seasons.
Yeah, Netflix isn't going to cancel you. You're not going to have to release your whole season at once because of streaming or...
Yeah, I mean, I love the week-to-week experience, discussing with people, and one of the things I love about the week-to-week experience is not just that you discuss it and you theorize and everything and you react, but that I think that a story sort of becomes associated with a period of your life, and that gives me nostalgia, like, and that sticks with you. Like, if you binge Lost, that will not stick with you like the experience of spending a few years just like waiting for episodes and having it be a thing you think about.
Yeah, and there is a counter to that, which is...
Well, that's part of why I'm so glad we did this podcast.
Right, and it's another thing too. It also has its downsides when you watch this week to week, which is why the Nikki and Paulo episode was called the worst episode. Is it the worst episode? Not by a long shot, but it's that people were excited to tune in that week, and then they got an episode about Nikki and Paulo, and they had to wait 7 more days to get another episode, and they went, well, what the fuck? I wanted to watch. I wanted to see something happen. I didn't want an episode about Nikki and Paulo, and it's like, well, that's what you get this week. Like, it can have its ups and downs. I honestly, for all the theorizing and everything, I do believe that this show is still better binged.
Oh yeah,
just because.
I praise the serial experience, but don't get me wrong. Like, time is valuable.
Yeah, but it's the kind of the issue where I think the show is better binge, but I also think, like, you could never have a show like this that isn't week to week. Like, it had to be week to week to build up its thing. And, like, I just imagine, a show's never going to get that magical 6 seasons and then end like this. I even know shows like Breaking Bad, I haven't watched it, but I know, like, what the ending is. And it's, like, kind of like a bittersweet ending.
I don't know what Breaking Bad's ending is. I watched the first season and I know I should watch the rest. But, like I said, I'm not actually a huge TV person, so I just don't get around to it. Yeah, it's like a bittersweet kind of ending. Or like Game of Thrones, where everyone hates it. Or Dexter, where the last 4 seasons of the show were just garbage. Like... Not everything ends like The Good Place or Parks and Rec.
Yeah, but I think Lost does. I think Lost ends on a very positive note that makes me feel happy about the show I just watched.
Yeah. I mean, I am kind of glad about the chronologically lost order of the epilogue, just because I feel like I watched...
It was like a little dessert treat after the main chorus.
The thing is, I sent off the show pretty much solely thinking about the characters, not thinking about answers or mysteries.
Exactly, yeah. And that's the best way to go into Lost. Like, yeah. The answers are...
And are we ready to... Do we have more to say, or are we ready to move on to our final segment?
I think we're ready to move on to our final segment.
Alright, well, like I said, I don't know if I have many more concluding thoughts about the plot or the mysteries, but we are going to talk some more about the characters, because I have prepared my final tier list. And now I'm not going to say this is a definitive tier list, because I threw this together right before we did this. And a couple other remarks about it, because David hasn't seen this yet. I very much balanced, how much I like the character and how well written they were. And, I'm inconsistent about that. Some characters I value different things more than others. And finally, I actually will confidently say I don't think a single person on this list is a bad character. So if you see someone near the bottom of the list, you're like, what? How do you think they're bad? I actually don't think they're bad. I think everybody on this list is at least decent. Most of them are good, and it's really just a matter of how good.
Yeah, I would say out of all the people who were main characters, though probably the worst one was probably, I guess, Ilana, and that was just because they introduced her and then decided they didn't have time for her.
Yeah. So, without further ado, I am now showing David my final tier list.
Okay, let's see this tier list here. Oh, you've included a lot of people I didn't expect. I didn't even think about here.
I just included like everything on the tier list that came up when I googled. I just included everything on it. So you can skip talking about like Kimi. I just put him low.
Yeah, I see the I see the bottom row is here. It's Kimi and Nikki and Paulo. Agree.
I just put him there because
throw him in the trash.
Obvious, like there's nothing about Nikki or Paulo that would make me put them higher than the bottom.
I mean, they're just funny. Like they're just if first from a comedy angle, they're kind of funny. But yeah, they died, and I'm not sad about it.
Yep. It was a very funny episode to see that happen.
Yeah. Okay. Now, okay. Do you want to start at the top here, or do you want to keep moving up from the bottom? Okay. So who do you have?
We don't have to talk about each one, or we don't have to talk too much about each one. But like,
yeah, we can just go quickly through.
You tell me. We can spend time on some if you want, but like, this is my thoughts. You tell me, as the experienced Lost fans, what about this is interesting.
Okay. So C tier is.
Oh yeah.
First one you have here.
This tier list is vaguely ordered within the tiers.
Okay, so you have the Man in Black here. Yeah, I agree. C tier is probably best for him.
I don't hate anything about him, but it is still awkward how he was introduced, and I don't think he actually had like that amazing character moments in season 6 or anything.
Yeah, then I see, Boone and Charlotte here, and I'm going to assume it's for the same reason, which is like they were good, but they died too soon for there to be any...
Yeah, well, Charlotte, I never got that much with her, and what I got from her I experienced very out of order, so she never made the impression on me I think she could have. And Boone, I think, is a little better than that, but Boone also just has all those Boone moments where he fucks up that I'm like, you get C tier.
That's true, yeah. Then we have... You put Christian that low, really?
I just don't feel him as much as the people higher.
I might put Christian in like A tier, honestly.
I mean, I'm not going to dispute that. I don't feel much from him.
Then Alana, yeah, I agree.
Alana in terms of like likable screen presence should be higher, but just like there was never that much with her.
Yeah, Mr. Echo. I would put Mr. Echo in B tier, even if his story got cut short.
Mr. Echo is in the same position as Alana, even more. Like, he has a great backstory. He should be higher, but what they did with him was just, like, so disappointing.
Yeah, I still say B tier. Eloise.
Eloise is just, like, she's not bad. I just, like, nothing about her makes me put her that much higher.
I guess. Penny, I'd put Penny in B tier.
Easy. I get that. Penny is, like, as a personal preference thing. I just like never actually like felt that much from her, but like she worked.
Yeah, and then Walt. Yeah, I agree. They didn't do much with Walt. Then they couldn't.
I mean, I like Walt in season 1 when they did him well, but just like
I like him in theory, but they had the execution. It was impossible due to actor issues. Like by actor issues, I mean him aging like a human.
Yeah, I'm not judging the actor, and I'm not even judging the writer. It's just like they just kind of couldn't do anything.
Yeah. Okay, B is Michael.
Michael is like...
I might put him in C, but B is still fine, yeah.
The thing is, season 1, he was one of my favorite characters, and then they just had him do so many bad things, kind of just as a result of, like, needing to do stuff with Walt's plot and get them off the island. And this is definitely one where, like, he could be higher, but he's lowered for me because of, like, the dislikes him factor, not because of the poorly written factor.
Right. Claire in B tier, Kate in B tier, agree. That's really shit. I know some people who would put Claire in D tier, Kate in D tier.
Kate, we've talked plenty before about how Kate was done dirty by the writers, and Claire, like, I like her, but early Claire, all of her plot lines revolved around the baby, and then later Claire, where?
Yeah, is that Libby? I guess. I guess. I might put her in C tier.
I think that I like Libby, and I like that she makes Hurley happy.
Yeah, it's just we never really got that much with Libby. Like, we didn't even get a flashback with her.
But she made Hurley happy.
That's true. Ana Lucia, B tier, agree.
Honestly, like I could see her being an A tier, but like she's a good character, but like one season of her.
She had one season, yeah.
Yeah.
Charlie in B tier. I'm surprised you put Charlie that high up, considering how much you hated him originally.
I do give credit for when a character gets turned around so well, and I think what keeps him up here for me is in part that his plotline up until dying was actually really good. Like the stuff in that water base was really good.
Yeah. Alex in B tier, Rousseau in B tier, agree. Jacob in B tier, yeah, agree.
Yeah, like Jacob. I mean,
Mr.
Jacob,
Friendly in B tier. No, I'm putting Mr. Friendly in D tier. Like I do not like him.
I don't know. I just thought he was charismatic as a villain. But yeah, I want to say thing about Jacob is that like obviously he's a linchpin of the show, but he's also just like as a character it was never like ooh great Jacob moment. But like he worked.
Yeah, and then Widmore. Just how they fumbled Widmore at the end. I would probably have to put him in C tier just for that. He was like really honestly, good for like season 4 and 5, and I didn't like him.
Yeah.
Let's see, A tier. Juliet, yes.
Juliet is like top of A tier, absolutely.
Yeah, Miles, yes. Shannon, I'm surprised you put Shannon that high, but I agree.
She might have. Shannon is one where like she was done dirty by the writers, but up until that point she was great. And also there's another. I feel like, as you can also see with Libby, if two characters make a really nice pairing, I might put the lower one a bit higher. Like Shannon and Saeed together make me smile, and so she gets A tier.
Yeah.
But also, like,
Daniel,
don't get me wrong, she is also like she is more than just a love interest. She is great on her own.
Yeah. Daniel's good. Jack, I could honestly see an argument for Jack and S tier, but yeah, A tier is good.
I think Jack. The thing about Jack is that you get so much Jack over the course of the show, and some of it is not that great.
That's true.
Like Jack is a little overexposed.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Lapidus. I might honestly put Lapidus in S tier, but
Lapidus. I mean, he's super likable, but he also he never got like character stuff that dug deep.
Yeah.
And honestly, I mean, pretty mostly okay. Bernard got some character stuff, but like Bernard is like as high as you can get while being pretty much a side character.
Yeah, Bernard and Rose, I might put them in B tier, but I love them.
I like Bernard a bit better just because I think his attitude when he wanted to make a sign for a plane was funny.
Yeah, that was funny. Yeah, Richard in A tier. Yeah, Sawyer in A tier.
Sawyer, I think is one where we've talked so much shit about Sawyer, but I think he's one where I've come to prioritize how well written he is over how much I like him, because when you look at the whole course of the show and how Sawyer developed, you can give him a little more credit than we necessarily have given him.
Yeah. Just looking at S tier here, I pretty much agree with everyone, except maybe Saeed. I might put Saeed in A tier just for what season 6 did to him.
As much as season 6 fumbled him, I'm not saying that I'm perfectly consistent about my rules for this tier list. As much as he got fumbled at points, Saeed, when I think of who was my single favorite person to watch, it is Saeed.
Yeah, because that's here. You have him at the very top of S tier. So I take it he was your favorite character.
Yeah,
then
he was just the most he was competent. He was cool. He was skilled. He got shit done. It's while Jack is worrying about the morality of what they do or whether to take Kate along, Saeed would just be like, nope, I'm gonna get shit done.
Yeah, I do really like Saeed for 5 seasons.
It's just when it I'm not judging if I want to judge who was overall consistently written the best. I'm sure Hurley is a bit above him. Others are a bit above him, but Saeed just he is just Saeed is the one who will probably stick with me the most and that was a great character. The peaks mean more than the valleys.
Okay, that's fair. Yeah, and Hurley, obviously agree. He's amazing.
Hurley's my second. He's Hurley. Everyone loves Hurley.
Yeah, Jin and Sun, amazing. Who doesn't love love? Ben, obviously, I think one of the best written characters of all time. Ben, my absolute favorite.
Ben, I feel like Ben wasn't even. Ben only became someone who would be this high on my tier list in season 5, season 6 stuff. When you really saw the full dimensions of his desperation and how
for me, he became S tier when he had the. When he went in, got judged by who he thought was Alex.
That
for me, that's when he became S tier.
Once his struggle, it's really his struggles after causing Alex to die that really make him that good. And I do want to say a little extra about Ben here. I think that when we did a backstory tier list long ago, I put him pretty low. And I think that Ben's backstory is just... I think I guessed at the time, like, when it's a villain backstory, you need to know them as a villain. And you know what? That was absolutely true. Ben's backstory is so much better in retrospect when I know what kind of person it was explaining he was. It needed that. Whereas with a lot of other characters, their backstories were, like, stories that on their own were interesting to me. For me, Ben needed that context.
Absolutely, yeah. It's, it's like, yeah, it is the kind of, when you look at his whole life, it is the story of how this nerdy, little, wimpy 12-year-old kid becomes this, like, super powerful and feared man, but who's still ultimately wimpy little 12-year-old on the inside.
That's why Ben's such a good villain, because he kind of feels like the kind of guy who would be a history teacher and try to make citizens' arrests.
Yeah.
But then he wants to become this manipulative villain, and he kind of does, but then in the end he messes things up.
Yeah, and then Desmond, a character who they originally only wanted to have appear in that season 2 premiere, and that's it. Wow, they really did an amazing job with him.
Desmond is someone I honestly had a lot of problems with early on, but he's kind of like Ben. Like, once you see the whole journey of Desmond as a character, you realize it's just really good. Whereas, like, Jin and Sun, I have higher on this tier list than them, and Jin and Sun are more on the level of, like, they were just consistently really fun to watch, and then it's like Ben and Desmond, like, it's about the journey they have. And Locke is my next one in my S tier, and he's kind of both, in that a lot of the time Locke was not that, like, just great to watch, and sometimes he wasn't, but then he also had enough of an interesting journey that it works.
Yeah, for me, Locke is number 2, like, of my favorites. Like, it is so... That's why that one episode, hurt so much. It's you watch your favorite character kill your second favorite character. Like, it's... The writing they gave Locke, while at times frustrating, was one of the best character arcs I've ever seen.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Vincent, absolute good boy.
Vincent's S tier, yeah.
Yeah. No question about that.
Yep. So, that was quite the show, and I'm not sure, do we have anything left to say about it?
I will just say, I have one last question, and that's it.
Yeah?
Which is, I would say, what is your favorite arc? And I would say, I would divide this between the early prehistory to the end of the 70s, the backstories, then Island seasons 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, Afterlife. What would you say was your favorite?
Oh, man, I mean, early prehistory through 70s is like, that covers a lot of things. That covers some backstories. Like,
it covers Jacob and
see, I feel like
Richard's
70s,
backstory.
I wonder if part of the reason I like 70s so much is because of nostalgia and, like, because I really think 70s is one of the most interesting, strongest parts of the show, but at the same time,
Agreed.
I feel like I enjoyed a lot of later parts more just because I was more invested in things then than I was while I watched 70s, where obviously if I watched the show in order, I would have been very invested during 70s. So then, it's really hard to say. I liked a lot of Season 4 stuff, I guess. I honestly don't think I can say I have a favorite arc, because I think that a lot of the best parts of the show to me are scattered through the first few seasons. They're, like, I don't think... Like, obviously, I can't say Season 2 was the best, because no, but there were individual parts of Season 2 that were really good. It's like, what I like about the show is, like, a random episode while they're surviving on the island that had really good Saeed stuff, more than I like the arc surrounding that. So I'm sorry, but I'm not sure if I can answer that question.
That's fair. I would say it's also difficult for me, because if you ask me about the show in its original format, I say Season 5, no question. Season 5 has... the time travel in the 70s and that whole off-island arc. And
Season 5 without the 70s to balance it out, I can't pick. Yet I feel like I probably would pick it if it was watching the original.
Yeah, but in this format, again, I do want to say the 70s just because I love the 70s, but I think I might have to just go with Season 4. Just because in watching in this timeline, in this chronological way, it's like, Season 4 is so fast, and it's
I might
like such a victory because you don't get the flash forward, so it's such a complete victory of they got off the island.
Season 4, I do think that I mean, I think that it wasn't perfect, and I think that there were points where the fast pacing hurt it. And I feel like season 4, it moves so fast, especially watching it without the flash forwards, that there's kind of like... It's kind of like... It feels like a flash in the pan. Like, you can't pick season 4 as your favorite. You barely got to spend time with there. But maybe it is, because it has everyone surviving, but it moves fast, so it's not like seasons 1 or 2 or early season 3. Late season 3 is also very good, although I actually wasn't huge on Jack during late season 3. Is kind of, I don't know. But then season 4...
I kind of liked how like crazy Jack got during the end of season 3, not gonna lie.
Season 4, it moves fast, it has the characters surviving on the island, but, you know, it moves fast during that. And it has our gang from the boat come, so we have Miles and Daniel and Lapidus. I feel like... Okay, here's the thing about season 4. I feel like season 4 is, in a lot of ways, it is the in-between part. It feels like... It kind of feels to me like a lot of stuff has to happen right before... Like, season 3, a ton happens because that's how they contact off the island. Like, and season... Like, I feel like a lot of stuff happens after they got off the island. And season 4 is the most enjoyable to watch, but it also is kind of just the... I feel like it's and it does have like big moments, don't get me wrong. It has a lot of big moments. I mean, Alex dies in season 4. But I feel like season 4 is kind of the like... It's kind of just showing like, oh, well, we need to show what happens before they get off the island, before we can get to the plot we really want, which is we have to come back.
Yeah, well, to me, I think season 4 also has like probably the best finale in the boat exploding and Michael dies and you think Jin dies.
That's
and
really good. But I just feel like... I mean, do you get what I mean? Season 4 is very...
I guess that is kind of in between. I can see that, but I like it for that.
I mean, I do like it. I'm not sure this is a bad thing. It's kind of just why I didn't initially think of picking it. It feels like... I can't think of the right way to put this. Season 4... I mean, it feels like... It feels like it's the drive in between two places that... aren't necessarily more interesting in it, but are more important than it. And maybe part of that is because... Part of that is also just because things like the order I experienced it in were like... I don't know, it's like I finally... It's like, I know that time travel is going to happen, so then part of my expectations are like, oh, I know this just has to get us to that point. I don't know. I'm not sure what I'm saying really makes sense, and I think I do agree season 4 is the best.
Yeah, I mean, it's all personal. I mean, most people you ask, again, in normal order, they'll say, well, you know, what are the best seasons? Most people say season 1. Some people will say season 2. A couple people will say season 5, and that's about it. Like, you don't usually get seasons 3, 4, or 6.
I feel like it's just a lot of the things that drag down other seasons. Season 5 is just disjointed and chronologically lost. Season 1 slow, season 2 dragged out, season 3 dragged out at the start. Season 4 doesn't have any issues like that, and it moves fast, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And I feel like season 4, you know what? Season 4 is also very much a season where you feel like they know what they are planning on doing.
100%.
Like, that's the thing about seasons 1 through 3. There's a lot of episodes where it feels like they're faffing around because they don't know what they're planning on doing. And there are a lot of episodes where it feels like they make whack decisions, like killing off Shannon, stuff like that, killing off Echo, and Season 4 does not have those. Season 4 feels like they knew what characters' purposes were, and they were going to use them well.
Absolutely. I 100% agree. But yeah, I'm just so happy that I kind of got to go on this journey with you here, because for the longest time I thought there's no way in hell that you're ever going to watch the show. And I'm glad I was able to get you to do it through a podcast format, because it's been fun to hear what you think about it.
It's a very fun thing to do.
Yeah. So, I don't know. Do you have any closing thing to say to anyone who's still listening at this point?
Thanks for listening.
I'll say, you know, I think we're going to have to see that again. Okay.